Welcome back to Crossout. Today the Ravens finally released, meaning that we have a lot of new stuff to go through in this video. We will cover all of the new parts that has come here, just briefly cover what each of them do, and have a little look at the testing of each of them. Not going to go too much into depth with any of it because I'm actually more interested in hearing what you guys think about all of these new parts, because a lot of them brings new ways of playing this game, or not playing this game, but at least changes the way that we might play some builds. For example, we have the power unit, which might challenge the classic 3 Helios 1 Aegis or 2 Helios 2 Aegis builds that we see, because the power unit is an item that boosts plasma emitters, but more on that later. We will start from an end, and also just before doing so, we have a lot of new decals here, some stickers together with, I think these are actually all of the old Knight Rider stickers, which is funny that they're still here if the Knight Riders are now dead, but I guess the Ravens are just reselling all of that stuff. But we also have some new stickers, which is super dope, and all of these new decals. But starting from an end, first of all, we have the leech. The leech is basically an upgraded version of the shotgun that I have completely forgotten the name of right now. Let's just see what the name is. There we go. The Spitfire is the name, and then it's sort of the middle way between the Spitfire and the Rupture shotgun. The Rupture shotgun that we haven't really seen much in combat at all. Don't know if the leech will change that, but people have already come up with some pretty interesting builds for this one, and we're going to go take a look at those in just a second. But the leech is, as I said, a special one here. The crafting recipe is pretty fine. I mean, this is the recipe for pretty much any special tier weapon. The only difference is there's that you have to use tailors, but no increase, so to say, into the resources that it costs to craft these. Only the toadfish having a slightly higher electronics and batteries, but besides that, not a massive change at all. Looking at the leech, the limited angle shotguns had a bit of a change to them not too long ago, before this patch with patch 0.11. Let me just fix my controls here as we test this. But the shotguns had a little bit of a change, meaning that the optimal range for limited firing shotguns has actually been increased a tiny bit, and that means that now, if I remember correctly, the optimal range is just around 50 meters. And if we go further back, then we see a pretty drastic drop in the damage output, and the further we go, the less damage we deal. But before, this range was 20 meters the optimal range, and now it is 50 meters instead. So maybe the leech will be viable, because the jump from a rare to an epic is quite high in power score. So maybe this will be the golden middle way, where you can still get some decently durable shotguns right here. And next up, we have the Arrow Thrawn, and the Arrow Thrawn is a shotgun a bit like the Junkbow, the Fafnir, the Nidhogg. I am kind of struggling to see where this has some use compared to the Fafnir. Not really sure about that right now. It has very different mechanics, which we will get into in just a second. But at the end of the day, it's sizing much like the Fafnir, the design much like the Fafnir. It's a single shot shotgun. The very big difference in this one is the fact that the Arrow Thrawn will shoot out a projectile, and that projectile will sort of detonate in front of the build. And now we got to get back again on these controls. There we go. So slap on an Arrow Thrawn here, and as you can see here, when we shoot, let me just show you this from the side. We shoot out a slug that then detonates. And the very important thing to know about these is the fact that the slug itself has a projectile damage, which you can see here. Bam, 52. That thing hits, I think, constantly for 52. All right, I actually had 50 before, but might have been my testing that was a bit off. But nevertheless, 52 damage right here. Wait, do we have a code drive in here? Master Jack, does he give anything to shotguns? Shotguns 5% damage, makes perfect sense now then. And the projectile itself here doesn't really do a lot. It's just a single shot, you know, no real damage inflicted besides just a hit for 52. So you definitely want to watch out from hitting like that. The key to this weapon is actually keeping a distance where you hit people with the AoE, as you can see is happening there, because watch what happens to the damage then. 200 damage per slug. And 200 damage per slug is a lot of damage, especially compared to 52. So that's definitely something you want to go look for. If you can hit for 3 of these straight into a cabin, then you can deal 600 damage per shot. And as you can see from the reload here, we're looking at around 2.5-3 seconds reload time. So you can put out a very respectable amount of DPS for an epic weapon. But it does require you to stay at a distance where you can actually hit your targets with the intended explosion rather than the slug itself. Because if you do, you're left with 52 damage, and that is not a whole lot. So it does take some skills from you. It does require something from you to actively actually play this the right way if you want to do that. But if you do, this weapon can indeed be deadly, it looks like. All in all, this weapon, from what I've been able to figure, has just around 20 meters. As you can see, you got to consider the gun distance there to the build. So that's around, I would say 20 meters, because I think we're closer to that than that. And then I think the maximum range is like 40 or something like that. Let's just see. There we go. Maybe even 50. Yeah, not barely 50. Are we like right on the line right now? We can sneak in just a little bit here. Does seem like it's just below 50, but around 50-40 meters, something like that. But the optimal range seems to be around 20 meters. So it is definitely a closer range weapon than some of the other shotguns. But compared to the Nidhogg, this actually deals quite a lot more damage. As you can see, we dealt 201 damage over there, and now if we can just bring out a Fafnir here as well, a single shot with a Fafnir straight to a cabin, just to compare the damage and give us an idea of what we are looking at right here. Let's see, can we actually do that? 168, and let's just try that one more time. 168 that added up to. So you do get more damage if you actually hit like that, but you also do get a huge penalty if you do not hit the shots the way that you're supposed to. Then we have the power unit, which is a very interesting module. When it first came out, I actually thought it was going to be something like the Tormentor, but it is nothing like the Tormentor at all. This is actually a toggle module that can be either one or the other. A very interesting concept, which I'm personally very hyped to see. We're going to have to see if this will be useful, but just the fact that they are actually giving us something like this and trying it out, I find it very cool. If you go in here and look for it, I haven't acquired one myself yet, but we can luckily find plenty of these on the exhibition if we want to test them out. And as you can see, we have a sideways over here with it, and let's just give these a shot. As you can see, there is quite some speed to this cycle. If we change the way that the module works, the cycle slows down just a little bit. Now what we have here is actually increased range instead. So all of a sudden we can shoot these targets out here with a Helios on 200 meters, no issues at all. And if we switch again, bam, we are no longer hitting it. So it's one or the other. You will get faster projectile speed and longer range, or you will get quicker shooting with this module. It definitely is a strong module in my opinion. This Krieger Helios spam will take the DPS up by quite a lot. So the question will be here right now. We will go into depth with this later on when we test the module fully. But the question is, can one of these compensate for a Helios? So can you take a Helios off of your build, and instead of running 3 Helios 1Hs plus just a Chameleon and a 100, can you maybe start building your Helios hovers with 2 Helios, 1 Aegis, one of these, and then you'll still have energy left for other stuff on your build, which I personally think is very interesting. If you can start bringing verifiers, you can bring Dopplers, you can bring, I don't know, you can bring a cap can to your Helios build, whatever you want to do. Maybe there is something that you want to try out, but at least this might potentially have some influence on the way that we can build Helios hovers and give us a bit of variety to it. So I'm very excited to test this fully, which we will be doing next week. And if you want to catch up to that video, do not forget to subscribe to the channel if you aren't already. That way you can always find it. And then we only have the toadfish left of new things here that we are gonna test. So let's bring up the toadfish here, put this on the build, and let's just quickly talk about what the toadfish can actually do. So the toadfish is pretty much a crossbow like the spike as we know it. The difference here with the toadfish is the fact that the toadfish will I completely forgot what I was going to say here, but the toadfish shoots 2 shots, and the second one will really knock your opponent out of course. It also does that on the spike, but the impulse from the hit has been greatly increased with the toadfish. And that is given that if we just take a look at the perk here, if you hit the first target with the first bolt, or if you hit your target with the first bolt. Besides that, the toadfish is just, you know, interesting crafting recipe, makes sense, nice to see. The Keens being bumped up into price a little bit after the market completely crashed after the radar changes. But besides this, there's nothing much to say about it. I feel like the action lies within the weapon itself, because the weapon has a lot of pushing power. Remember, we're only using 1 here. If you do hit like just in the right fashion with 3 of these, you can actually accelerate these builds so much that they blow up because they get so much speed on them, which is quite dope indeed. So very interesting weapon concept in my opinion. I am trying to get the 3 of these to play them in Clan Wars, see if they're any viable at all. I actually suspect them to be, so very hyped to get to play with them later on, but I will need 3 of them and I'm a bit too cheap to buy the 3 directly from the market, sadly. But besides that, there is nothing really new to this patch. It's some of the stuff that we have seen before. Rift 2M, Contact 2M are back as always. Very nice. So if you guys are fancy to do some fusions or whatever, you gotta grab these modules now because they will be gone, as well as the spike being back. I'm very interested, very excited, or interested, what am I trying to say here? Surprised is, I think it's the word that I'm looking for, to see that the Corvo is not back. Where is the Corvo even? The Corvo should be out here somewhere with the special weapons. Because I don't think you can craft the Corvo still, but it's not back this time, and neither is the Emily, which I also think a lot of people actually expected to be back. So I don't really know what their play with those will be. If those weapons are just gone forever, if they are, I don't want to be like a complete noob here. I'm just gonna cycle through these as we chat. But if they are gone forever, then maybe that is a weapon that will, with time, rise in price. I don't think they're going to touch it much with patches and stuff. If they decided to just ignore the weapon for now and discontinue it, no, it's not here. It's not here. So don't really know where those went. But again, I don't think it's a weapon that will be changed much anytime soon. So don't expect yourself to flip a lot of money on them anytime soon. Maybe buy them for long-time investments. What do I know? That's just my thoughts on it. Nevertheless, that has been it for the Night Riders event here, or the Ravens, should I say, the Ravens path. Very interesting, but it looks a bit like the Night Riders, so you can't get confused. I hope you enjoyed this, and I hope it was informative. Once again, we're going to do a full breakdown of the power unit here very soon, so do stay tuned on the channel. Thanks for watching. Bye bye.